All right. Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone this morning. Okay, so you guys are all library workers and you're already helping those in your community to find health information. But as a library worker, what are you doing to manage your own well-being? Individual and community well-being are inherently connected. Thus, it's critical for workplaces to find health environments that supports all areas of wellness for their employees. So Jen and Margie are going to help us, and we're going to discover ways to improve your personal well-being and create a healthy workplace. And if you're a supervisor, which I think there's a couple of you on here, they're going to help us show us how you are helping to ensure that your staff stays healthy, both physically and mentally, and discuss ways to increase overall wellness for all staff in libraries so we can have a happy, healthy, and safe work environments. So Margie and Jen, thank you very much, and we'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very, very much, Autumn. I don't know if you caught it earlier, we are going to drop a link in the chat because we're curious as to where you are living in Nebraska and what your role is. And also, we have a question about if there's anything you'd like to hear from us in the future, we are always willing to come back and do other presentations. And I know Nebraska is librarians get contact hours, so we are thrilled to be able to be part of that. And so just let us know what you want to have the network of the National Library of Medicine provide for you. So, all right, well, without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So as Autumn mentioned, I'm Margie Sheppard, and welcome to our presentation, Fostering Wellness in the Workplace. So I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Network of the National Library of Medicine Region 3. And I'm joined by my colleague, Jen Ortiz today, and she is our consumer health, and I also label her the membership coordinator because she takes care of that big job for our network region. So we're really, really happy to be here and be part of Mental Health Mondays. This series is really valuable, and we're so grateful that the library system invited us, especially Autumn. She heard me just randomly crash in Nebraska webinar that was being held, and we got to know each other that way. So we're going to talk today about ways that we can improve our health and well-being at work, but also in our daily lives. Next slide, please. All right, so before we do a deep dive into our presentation, I want to give you a little bit of history about the National Institutes of Health. So the National Institutes of Health is the nation's leading medical research agency, and many of you might be more familiar with the National Cancer Institute, which is one of the many institutes and centers at NIH. The National Library of Medicine is the world's largest biomedical library, which maintains and makes available a very vast print collection and produces electronic information resources like PubMed and Medline Plus. NNLM, which is where Jen and I are from, is the network of the National Library of Medicine, and we are the outreach program for NLM. So there are 7 regions in NNLM, and they're made up geographically, and we from Region 3 serve Arkansas, Louisiana, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas, and our office is located at the University of North Texas Health Science Center in Fort Worth. Next slide. So our mission is to, looks like we lost the slides, Jen. There we go. Next one. Okay. There we go. All right. So at NNLM, our mission is to provide equal access to biomedical health information to not only health professionals, but members of the general public so that they're better equipped to make informed decisions about their health. And we do this a variety of ways. We have resources on our website. We also offer funding for projects. We provide webinars, and we do in-person trainings as well. So next slide. All right, so first and foremost, again, I can't thank you enough for inviting us to be here. And here's our agenda. So we'll do some little introductions about ourselves. And next, we're going to take a look at the objectives that we have planned. And then we're going to discuss what makes a workplace healthy. as well as how an organization, as well as the individuals in the organization, can all work together to make that space better. And then we're going to tell you about some resources that we have available, and then we'll do a little wrap up. Next slide.
Okay, and so I'm going to jump in and introduce myself. So my name is Jen. I've lived on both coasts, and now I'm in the middle of the country in Texas. I got my first start in running a library when I was about 9 years old, and I decided to organize the hundreds of books in my family's playroom. I created checkout slips, and I had a whole process if you actually wanted to take books out of the room. But my only patron was my 5-year-old brother, and he was very uncooperative. So I decided to study anthropology in college and then went into event marketing, but I found my way back to libraries about 8 years ago. I worked in several public libraries before joining the NNLM about two years ago, and I was surprised by the classes and funding that was available that I hadn't considered, because the National Library of Medicine seemed too academic for my needs because I worked for a public library. And so now I spend most of my time trying to let people know about the resources, the free resources that are available.
Okay, so here's my story. So I am actually a Nebraska native. I was born in Omaha and I lived in Lincoln growing up. So I made my way to libraries when I was young. I would walk over to the public library in Lincoln, and I took part in summer reading programs, and I just loved to read. So as I got older, I can still continue to be an avid reader, and to have spent hours with my kids reading to them all kinds of books. So I'm proud to say that they too, as adults, are really avid readers. So I also have an undergraduate degree in nursing. So my husband decided we met in Kansas City. He wanted to go launch his own rural anesthesia practice. So we moved out to the middle of Kansas, and I took over kind of managing his practice, and I raised our kids. And I did some nursing, but I had to be on a part-time basis. So when the kids left the nest and I wanted to get back into the workplace, I had an opportunity to go to work for the Central Kansas Library System, which is right in the middle, and it goes all the way up to from around Great Bend, where we lived, all the way to the Nebraska border. So I was oftentimes maybe within 10, 15 miles of the Nebraska border to some of our small libraries up there. So when I joined, I started at the bottom. I processed materials. I managed the books by mail service, which we sent books to rural patrons who didn't have libraries access. And eventually I learned to catalog, which was one of my favorite things of all. I know I'm kind of weird about that. But then as I became a consultant, I started working, like I mentioned, in these communities. There were 100 people, and some of the communities had 100,000 people. So I really got a good view of the variety of libraries that are located in rural states such as Nebraska and Kansas. So what really bothered me is when I would go in there with my nursing background and look at their health information resources, they were really old and just awful. And, but I know, libraries don't have budgets for collections to build that part of the collection. So it's really exciting to me to be able to walk in there and give them free resources like Jen mentioned that are reliable, such as Medline Plus. And that really was, I think, a game changer when people would learn about that. So I've been with NNLM since December of 2019, and really love doing webinars like this that can help librarians not only help themselves, but help their communities as well. So next slide. All right, so here we go. Here's our objectives. So first of all, we will be we're going to look at what a healthy work environment looks like. You can go to the next one. Okay. And we're going to be describing the benefits of a healthy workplace, not only for the people that work there, but from the organization standpoint as well. We will identify changes that the organization can make, and we're also going to identify changes that you can make to improve your health and wellness at work. And finally, we want you to be aware of resources from NNLM and NIH that you can help not only to use, that you can use within the library for your patrons, but also to help yourself if you need them. So to get you thinking about wellness and all the little facets that go into it, we're going to look at the 8 dimensions of health and wellness. So maintaining an optimal level of wellness is really crucial to living a quality life. So, and basically wellness matters, and it matters because everything we do and every emotion that we feel relates to our well-being. So in turn, our well-being then directly affects the actions and emotions that we have every day. So it's kind of an ongoing circle. So it's really important for everyone to achieve optimal wellness, but that's often easier said than done. But this will help kind of subdue stress, reduce your risk of illness, and ensure some positive interactions within your daily life and the people that you see every day. So there's 8 dimensions of wellness that we want to talk about. So there's occupational, emotional, spiritual, financial, physical, social, and intellectual. And each dimension is interconnected. So one can reach an optimal level of understanding about how to maintain and optimize each of the dimensions. So let's take a little brief look at each one. So the first one is emotional. So emotional well-being encompasses the knowledge and skills to identify your personal feelings and the ability to handle those emotions. The NIH describes emotional wellness as the ability to successfully handle life's stresses and adapt to change in difficult times. The second one, environmental. Well, this dimension encompasses all areas of health that relate to the environment, and in turn, how the environment then can have a direct impact on human health. So for instance, it includes like eco-friendly considerations, like are people actively participating in recycling and properly disposing of electronics and medications? What about energy, fuel, water conservation, and the use of sustainable products? Financial wellness encompasses all aspects of well-being pertaining to finances, including knowledge and skills of financial planning and managing expenses. Intellectual wellness encompasses all the parts of well-being pertaining to brain health and growth via thought-provoking mental activities. So how many of you play Wordle? Or maybe you do Sudoku, those things. So those are really, really important parts of making our brains healthy. Occupational wellness takes into consideration all the aspects of well-being pertaining to your personal satisfaction within your job and career. And physical, this dimension encompasses all the areas of health that relate to physical aspects of the body, including nutrition, exercise, maybe weight management, ergonomics in the workplace and at home, tobacco use, disease prevention, and much, much more. Social wellness, that is all the parts of well-being that relate to social connections, relationships, and personal expression. And finally, we have to mention spiritual wellness. This encompasses all the parts of well-being pertaining to the search for purpose or meaning in life. And this might include, a higher power, belief in a higher power, but it doesn't necessarily have to be aligned with a specific religion. Next slide. Okay, so when you hear about or think about wellness, or you hear that word, we just wondered what comes to mind for you. You can put your answers in the chat because Jen and I are just really curious about that. So I'm sure there's going to be a variety of answers to this because it's pretty personal for everybody. So just take a minute and think about it, and then drop that into the chat. And as you're thinking about it, I kind of thought about this too. And for me, I was like, well, what it meant for me when I was 20 was totally different than what it means to me now. Then I won't tell you what decade it meant, but things that didn't bother me when I was 20 kind of bother me now. So when I do my exercising, I have to be able to, consider the different things that affect my life and, that keep me well. So, it's just, I don't know, if I had to come up with one word, I would probably say prevention. So practicing prevention to keep me well. So let's see, does anybody put anything in the chat? Yep, I like that. Laura says that she watches what she eats and what I think and what I tell myself, and taking time for me. I think that's really, really, really important. Yeah, I do that too. I go to bed and read my book. That's my guilty pleasure. Feeling peace. Nice. Very nice. I like that. That's great. Well, I appreciate that. Oh, feeling well physically and mentally. And healthy work-life balance, living in gratitude, as well as a good diet and realistic expectations of my time. I really like that. I think we can all tend to be guilty of burning the candle at both ends, as my mother used to say. So I agree in that wellness. Yep. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you putting some thoughts in the chat, because yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, it takes on different meaning for all of us. So next slide. Okay. All right. So what is a healthy workplace? Well, the World Health Organization has a pretty good definition, and I think it's got some parts to it that I think really kind of bring everything together. So the World Health says it's one in which workers and managers collaborate to use a continual improvement process to protect and promote the health, safety, and well-being of all workers and the sustainability of the workplace by considering the following based on identified needs. So the first one would be health and safety concerns in the physical work environment. That's really important. Health, safety, and well-being concerns in the psychosocial work environment, including how work is organized and workplace culture. And then personal health resources in the workplace and ways of participating in the community to improve the health of workers and their families and other members of the community. Next slide. So based on this definition, we've come up with how a healthy workplace can be cultivated with those 4 spheres of influence. So this kind of a diagram kind of gives you an idea, because they all overlap. You got your physical, your psychosocial, your personal, and your community involvement. It's all kind of intertwined. So let's go ahead and take a look at the physical work environment. Next slide. Okay, so here's a question for you. Which of the following is not a physical aspect of a healthy workplace? Is it ergonomics, lighting, smell, air quality, noises, access to nature, or the number of books in your library? Well, if you pick D, you're correct. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of a trick question, because the thing is that we all love books. I love books, and it gives me great pleasure to walk in and see lots of books on a shelf. But really, that doesn't make your workplace healthy. And in some instances, overcrowded shelves can make your work harder. So A, B, and C are those big pieces that make that physical library space something that's really crucial to a really healthy workplace. Next slide, please. All right, so physical aspects of health are probably, the first thing that comes to mind. And when I think about a healthy workplace, so specifically, that's how that physical environment of the workplace contributes to the health and wellness of the staff. So when we look at the physical environment, some of the things that can improve the health of employment are, like we mentioned in the slide before, ergonomics, access to natural light, good air quality, and the noise factor. So what is workplace ergonomics? Well, this is pretty big, actually. Workplace ergonomics is the thing that attempts to reduce strain and fatigue and injuries by improving product design and workspace arrangement, such as, properly positioning your chair, getting your keyboard and your monitor at the right height. It's really important. I can't stress this enough, is, libraries kind of tend to not think about their space and their staff when they budget for new furniture. Like if a standing desktop, would be better, that's generally the last thing that's included in the budget. So it's really important to kind of keep that on a revolving budgetary line item, because we sit in our chairs a lot, we use our desks a lot, we do all that stuff. Computer monitors improve, But we always are seeing, the last thing that we do is budget for those, and can't stress that one enough. So desk chairs with good support that are adjustable are really important. Desks and workstations that have plenty of room to work with, and that you can organize them so you can reduce the strain that it takes to do your job. And oftentimes libraries make do with old furniture, like an old oak desk chair that maybe really look cool from the 50s or whatever, 40s, but it probably isn't really great if you're sitting in it all day. In fact, I know it's not. So again, we need to make sure we renew and refresh and think about the things that are going on with the health of our employees, even just so much as adding one of those gel mats at the circulation desk. That's huge for people that are standing and taking care of patrons. And, even at the smallest of libraries, if you're standing and doing a lot of packing of materials, say you have interlibrary loan type of thing, I remember when I was doing that, one of the things my supervisor did was bought one of those mats. So when we're standing and processing materials or doing things, we had something comfortable to stand on. So, those kind of things are really going to eliminate so many physical problems that can cause strain and stress on us, cause pain and stress over time. And, you might say, well, really, how important is this in the workplace? Well, it's really important because practicing good ergonomics can help the office employees avoid injuries at work. And you can help your staff be more efficient and productive. In addition, it's going to create better safety culture, probably going to boost morale because people are going to be comfortable, and it's going to really make them loyal to the library because it's been taken into consideration their physical comfort. Next slide. All right, so the next one is exposure to natural light. So, the idea that we need adequate light to work is nothing new. However, they've done a lot of work in exploring the different types and amount of light needed. And, we all have worked in places with fluorescent lights, and, they're really considered safe as long as you're not they're not directly upon you. So you need to be at least a foot away from those. Okay, yeah, so the new research is showing us that the types of lighting that we're exposed to during the day can really affect our health and our well-being, and protect and create a more productive environment for us. I'm a real light person. I need light. So I know this is true for me. So next. Okay, so exposure to natural light during the workday, not only does it improve our well-being, as I mentioned, but it also reduces eye strain. It reduces headaches, and it reduces drowsiness. And it improves our overall performance and productivity. So there was one research study out there that said that there was a 70% improvement in work performance in an office that included some natural light. So that's pretty significant, I think. So. And then air quality. All right, well, that's something that's probably a really big part of workplace happiness, but we really probably don't think about it much. So, it might be challenging to really keep the office at a happy temperature for everyone. And the utility bill can also be something that's a challenge, especially in some of our older libraries where it's kind of the insulation's inadequate, the temperature controls, it's really difficult to do. And the airflow and ventilation are, back from the 50s or 40s or 30s in some instances, maybe even further back. So I'm sure that many of you, we've worn fingerless gloves at work. Maybe we all have cardigans at our desk. I mean, I used to have a bunch of them. And when I didn't have one, I would take one off of the coat rack where we had 3 or 4 hanging for situations where somebody was cold. And then space heaters under your desk. Yeah, some people do that. And not only in the winter, but sometimes in the summer, it's really cold in the particular place that you work. So cold air, while it might be nice to sleep in, at work, it does more than make us uncomfortable. It affects our ability to concentrate, and people are less productive, and the error factor is higher. So according to one study that I read, office temperatures that are increased from 68 degrees to 77 reduced errors by 44%. And the output of people that were working in that temperature went up by 150%. So while 77 might seem high to some, it's worth knowing the temperature in the building so you can ensure that your staff is warm enough. So there is research that that also is kind of interesting about being physically warm, and that it leads to social warmth. So if you have a workplace temperature where everybody's comfortable, then this can increase social warmth between the staff, improving morale and collaboration. And this also, the feeling of social warmth and goodwill can also transfer over to the patrons. You know, feeling emotionally warm toward others can make a really big difference in how we interact and how we approach difficult situations. 77 degrees might also be a pretty good temperature in the summer as well. So think about that when you're setting that thermostat. So air quality at work probably isn't something that we think about, but you know, the air that we work in can definitely have some negative effects on health. In addition to pollutants that come in from the outside air due to poor filtration, indoor air quality can also be reduced by a pretty long list of things that are from the inside of the building as well. So for instance, think about mold or dampness, maybe cleaning and paint fumes, the carpets, if they're older, that could be problematic for some. Air fresheners, and if people wear perfumes, this can be a problem. So these can make chronic health issues, so for instance, if you have staff that has allergies, or it can trigger asthma attacks. Even those without allergies can oftentimes experience some irritation of the eyes and nose, throat, lungs, and skin when they're exposed to things like airborne mold particles. So this can just compound the problem by it leads to increased sick days or just a lack of productivity because people just don't feel good. I think we've all read about sick buildings. Well, this is pretty true, and I used to work, when I worked for the library system, we were in the basement, and when trucks would pull up that would leave their engines running, that fumes would circulate through the building. So, it's just something that we need to be aware of when we're thinking about our space. So we do know that the world around us is really noisy, and it's getting louder and louder. And this is, also in our workplaces. So a lot of libraries have open plans, office plans, or they might use a cubicle system. And that exposes us to a whole bunch of background noises that range from maybe people, using the computer, or, undoing packaging, or, just whatever, overhearing conversations, you name it. So this has forced a lot of people to wear headphones at work and to drown out distracting noises. And exposure to noise can be really frustrating and stressful, especially if you're trying to do something that requires a lot of concentration. So when I was doing cataloging, I used to just put my earphones in, put white noise in, and because my office was right in the center of a really busy, I didn't even have an office, it was just a desk in the middle of a giant room. So a noisy work environment has some really big implications about your productivity. They say that it could make people 66% less productive. And people that work in those open office plans take 60 to 70% more sick days than those that have their own space. A study by Oxford Economics found that the distraction caused by cubicles negatively affects employee satisfaction and productivity. So a healthy workplace includes, the ability to work free from distractions and noise. And if you could just provide some actual office space or cubicles that have walls that are higher than what you might imagine, that might be enough to keep out noise. But we have to be realistic. This isn't always, we can't always do this. So if you could at least have 1 or 2 places where people can go if they have to work in a quiet space, or maybe they need to make a private phone call or something like that, or maybe have a meeting. It's just nice to have at least 1 or 2 areas where people can go to accomplish this. So I mentioned natural light earlier. So if a window is really good when it lets in light, think of how great a window would be if you could look out and see a cute little dog like this romping in the grass. I think that would be really great. So a view of nature is really important. Advance it, Jan. All right, so studies show that exposure to nature can have direct impact on workers' physical and mental health, and it can decrease our blood pressure, especially that lower level, which is a real plus. And it also is helpful in recovering from illness. You're much faster at getting over illness if you're exposed to nature. And exposure to nature can also, especially at work, can reduce the impact of stress on our mind and body, and increase attention capacity and improve psychological well-being. And exposure to nature also, you can put into their plant life, those things increase our attention span much more than anything than you can imagine. So if we have plants around us, it's been proven that your psychological well-being and your overall mental health improves as well. Okay. All right, so there's other aspects of the physical work environment that can have a negative impact on workplace health and productivity. So according to a report from a St. Louis Area Business Health Coalition, visual design of a workplace has been shown to impact not only mood and morale and productivity, but it also, and those things that it includes are elements such as colors of the walls, the carpet, and other things. So if you can add plants, or a water feature would be great, but sometimes that's not possible. And just using natural materials and artwork that's maybe inspirational, and the ceiling height and the ability and opportunity to go outside and interact with nature is really important. So a healthy workplace that takes a holistic approach to the physical work environment is really important. So, and I know, this isn't always possible, but, even little things, you might think, oh, maybe just a desktop fountain, just that noise, that could be something really easy. You don't have to build, spend thousands of dollars reworking something, but just those little things, or even using a screensaver that has water bubbling or whatever, these things are important. So now I'm going to hand this over to Jen, and she's going to talk about emotional and mental wellness in the workplace.
Okay, so we talked about physical environment, but there are components of the non-physical environment or the library workplace culture that can be healthy or toxic. And so this next section is going to explore some of those components. And as Margie already said, we're going to provide you with a lot of ideas for yourself and your library. And there may be quite a few that you will be unable to implement or that are going to take a long time to do. And so wellness, much like health, cannot be improved instantly, and it needs to be worked on continuously. So many small actions will make a big change over time. So having that screensaver, peaceful music from YouTube, like anything you can do will make an impact over time. Okay, and so, so like we said, the physical aspects of health are probably the first thing that come to mind, and the health of individual people and what they can do to be healthy at home. And so, obviously we did cover that. And so, eating healthy, walking, getting enough sleep, things like that are important. But we also are going to discuss some of the mental and emotional health factors as well. And so one of the basic things that a healthy workplace does is pay a living wage for the area. So a living wage is one of the social determinants of health mentioned in the Healthy People 2020 initiative. And so a living wage means workers don't have to choose between filling a prescription or putting gas in their car. And now with gas being over, $4 a gallon in my area, that's a consideration, or the ability to select healthy fruits and vegetables at the grocery store. And so it's important to note that a living wage is not the poverty level. In addition to providing a living wage, a healthy workplace provides an equal salary to men and women for the same work. And unfortunately, in 2018 in the US, women earned 85% of what men earned. And this is true when comparing apples to apples, so managers to managers, or the same position or role. A look at the data from the Library Journal 2017 Placement and Salary Survey show that men earn more than women in almost all states and all positions. And the salary gap for women who are Black, Asian, Latina, and Latin and Native American is, of course, much larger. And providing a living wage at equal pay provides or improves employee satisfaction and reduces job turnover rates. And of course, I know somebody had mentioned work-life balance earlier when we asked about wellness. And so in today's always on, always connected world, work-life balance is something that many of us strive for. But what exactly do we mean by work-life balance? And generally, it's the idea of balancing the demands of work on our time and mental energy with the other aspects of our life, because we do have a life outside of the library. And so a workplace that supports work-life balance has happier and healthier employees. And so what does it look like when workplaces support work-life balance? And so we can look to the Government Services Agency, or GSA, for a good example. They offer the following to employees to help ensure a work-life balance: telecommuting, flexible work schedules, employee assistance program, work life for you, childcare subsidies, and even transit subsidies. And so we're going to examine a couple of these a little more in depth. And so first is telecommuting. And so you probably know telecommuting is allowing employees to work remotely, either from home or a location of their choice, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. And just 1 or 2 days a week can improve employees' job satisfaction, their performance, and reduce turnover. And one study found that employees who telecommute are at a lower risk for physical inactivity and tobacco use. And so lack of productivity is a common concern when considering allowing employees to work from home. And while there may be 1 or 2 bad apples, plenty of research shows that employees who work from home are more productive. And in fact, some research shows that employees who telecommute take fewer sick days and take shorter breaks while working. But of course, remember, you still need that work-life balance, even if you are working from home. So take those breaks. If you're sick, just keep the computer off. And so telecommuting, of course, can be tricky when you have a service desk to staff. But by working with staff to ensure desks are covered, it is possible. And as we said, it improves employees' mental and physical health. And so I know we're always thinking about, oh, we're short-staffed, and how do we cover everything? But if you're losing employees to other locations to find a better work-life balance, you're also going to be short-staffed. So if you can try to work with what you have, that may work better for you. And then next is, flexible work schedules. And so flex time, or allowing employees to flex their work schedule, has similar benefits to telecommuting. Flexible time schedules allow workers to set their work hours around the needs of the library and their personal lives. So it may mean that some people come in early and leave early, while others come in later and stay later. It might mean allowing time away from work for appointments and life events, with the ability to make up those hours before or after the time away. I know I had some staffers that would come in the morning. They would take a longer lunch break, or kind of a break in the middle of the day, to pick their kids up from school, take them to where they needed to go, and then they'd come back and finish their shift. We had staff when we needed them. We were able to make it work, and we were able to keep that employee because their kids needed to be picked up. And so employees who are allowed to flex their schedule when needed are more productive. They take less sick time, tend to work more hours, and are happier at work, which of course reduces turnover. And in general, allowing employees to have more control over their work schedule and work time is associated with improved physical and mental health, and happier employees, and a happier, healthier library. And so you'll notice, a lot of the things that we're mentioning are talking about, less sick time, you're happier. So it's a lot of different things that will give you the same conclusion of happier, healthier employees. And then so we have the employee assistance program. And so many workplaces, especially if you work for the city or the county, have an employee assistance program, or EAP. And according to the Office of Personnel Management, an employee assistance program is a voluntary work-based program that offers free and confidential assessments, short-term counseling, referrals, and follow-up services to employees who have personal or work-related problems. EAPs address a broad and complex body of issues affecting mental and emotional well-being, such as alcohol and other substance abuse, stress, grief, family problems, and psychological disorders. EAP counselors also work in a consultative role with managers and supervisors to address employee and organizational challenges and needs. Many EAPs are active in helping organizations prevent and cope with workplace violence, trauma, and other emergency response situations. And workplaces and supervisors should ensure workers are aware of the EAP and encourage workers to take advantage of their EAP. Oh, yes, and so you might get a free YMCA membership. And so many people don't know what is offered from their EAP. So if you can, like, ask your HR department. They love it when you come in and ask what they provide to their employees, because most people don't think to ask, and they want to tell you of all the things that are available to you. And another aspect of a healthy workplace is cultural humility. So it encourages cultural humility in its staff, in their interactions with each other and their patrons. And cultural humility is a practice of self-reflection on how one's own background and expectations impact a situation, of openness to others, determining the relevance of their own identities to any given situation, and of committing to redress the effects of power imbalances. And so in practice, an organization that encourages cultural humility encourages employees to move away from the position of expert to one of a student and a lifelong learner. The library should embrace accountability for cultural humility at each level, empowering employees to be culturally humble, and as an organization, incorporate cultural humility into policies and decision-making practices. And we should, of course, be culturally humble when interacting with patrons and with coworkers, because even if you're from the community that you're in, you haven't had the same life experiences with every patron who's coming in that door. So be aware of that. And then we have emotional labor. So as we all know, libraries are a service industry, and workers are regularly expected to perform emotional labor when interacting with colleagues or patrons. And so what is emotional labor? It is the practice of displaying certain emotions while hiding or suppressing others. You know, so you have a headache, you've had a tough day, but you're there with a patron, you have to smile and you know, act like nothing is going wrong in the back, even though, you know, there may be a small fire or other things, but you have to hide that when you're dealing with the public. And performing emotional labor can decrease job satisfaction and increase emotional exhaustion and burnout, which we'll discuss in a bit. And so while there's not much that can be done to eliminate emotional labor at work, there are ways to help mitigate the negative effects of performing emotional labor. Healthy workplaces acknowledge that emotional labor happens and that it can be exhausting. They ensure that the workload of emotional labor is equally distributed and giving employees time and space to process the aftermath of emotional labor. Because I know if you work a service desk, you probably had someone coming in, they have a medical condition, maybe they're temporarily homeless, they've got a domestic violence issue. There's all sorts of things that are happening in your community that you're trying to help with, and you do the best you can. And then when you come off the desk, you have taken that all on yourself, and you need your workplace to understand, like, okay, maybe you need some time off the desk. You can't go right back into that next reference question. You need some time to kind of reflect on that before you can go back and perform more emotional labor. There's also invisible labor. And so in addition to the obvious labor we perform at work, there's also invisible labor. And so this can refer to small social interactions that make the workplace more socially cohesive, such as planning events, buying birthday cards, bringing in food for special and everyday occasions, cleaning up after those events. It can also include things such as helping coworkers with projects. And not only do women perform more of this type of labor at work, but it's also more expected of them. And so much so that often when men do the same type of labor, it's considered heroic. So you're like, oh, so-and-so cleaned up the break room. It's like, we clean up the break room every other day. And so invisible labor is still labor, and performing it can be exhausting, and it can also take a lot of time. And so a healthy workplace strives to ensure that men and women participate in this labor. And some people advocate for this type of work to be included on performance reviews, and that women should share that they perform this labor with supervisors. So if you're spending a lot of time, you know, organizing office parties or things that, like, it's expected that these will happen because we do this this is what we do. make sure people know how much time is being involved with that. And yeah, put it on your performance review. And so while there may not be an easy solution, to fix this today, a healthy workplace acknowledges that this type of labor does happen, and it strives to ensure equal participation. So there's not one person that's always counted on to plan the parties and know everyone's birthday and bring in stuff for everyone. Kind of share that, maybe do a little committee so that everyone can do that equally. And then in addition, we also have compassion fatigue. And so like many who work in helping professions, library workers are also at risk for compassion fatigue. And compassion fatigue is a state experienced by those helping people or animals in distress. It is an extreme state of tension and preoccupation with the suffering of those being helped, to the degree that it can create a secondary traumatic stress for the helper. So we've had the last 2 years of a pandemic where we've been trying to help our patrons. We've been trying to get them the resources they need, especially when other offices and other places were closed. We were still expected to help them, but it can be stressful. So healthy workplaces are aware of this risk, and they take steps to help workers prevent and handle compassion fatigue. So in addition to interactions with patrons, other factors that contribute to compassion fatigue are low wages, lack of a workspace, lack of time to process your emotions, and a lack of a space to do so privately. So if you've got that open office and there's nowhere to go to just, kind of be with yourself, that can increase this. And so a lot of this relates to issues that we mentioned, earlier. We talk about compassion fatigue, but what are some ways to know if people in your library are experiencing compassion fatigue? So you may see excessive blaming, bottled up emotions, isolation from others. Someone may receive an unusual amount of complaints from others, especially if it was someone that everyone got along with before, but something's happened. Maybe they voice excessive complaints about administrative functions. There may be substance misuse to mask their feelings. You can also start with compulsive behavior, such as overspending, overeating, poor self-care, like hygiene and appearance, like I just don't have the energy today. You may have legal problems, indebtedness, reoccurrence of nightmares and flashbacks to traumatic events, chronic physical ailments such as gastrointestinal problems and recurrent colds, because we know a lot of mental issues and emotional issues become physical if we don't deal with them soon enough. You may be apathetic, sad, you don't find activities pleasurable, difficulty concentrating, you're just mentally and physically tired, you're preoccupied, and then you're also just kind of in denial, like I can't deal with it. You're just in denial about your problems. And it's important not just for individual health, but also for the health of the organization. So according to the Compassion Fatigue Awareness Project, organizational symptoms of compassion fatigue include high absenteeism, constant changes in coworkers' relationships, inability for teams to work well together, desire among staff members to break company rules, outbreaks of aggressive behaviors among staff, inability of staff to complete assignments and tasks, inability of staff to respect and meet deadlines, a lack of flexibility among staff members, negativism towards management, a strong reluctance toward change because you want to be able to control something, an inability of staff to believe that improvement is possible, and a lack of vision for the future. And I don't know about you, but it all sounds pretty awful to me. And so it's important that we work to prevent or heal from compassion fatigue, to provide the best working environment and the best services for our patrons and our community. And fortunately, there are things that libraries as organizations can do. And so some things that healthy libraries do: first, you acknowledge that library workers are at risk for compassion fatigue and discuss it openly. Encourage regular breaks, encourage mental health days. I know you have sick days. Nobody needs to know whether it's a physical ailment or emotional or mental. Take that day. Provide enough time off through vacation days, sick days, or a reasonable amount of personal time off. Provide peer support. Assess and change workloads. Especially with the pandemic, people went to curbside, like everything kind of changed overnight. And so that you need to take a time to like assess, okay, this is how we were doing it. Is this working well for everyone now? Improved access to learning and professional development. So let people know that there are things that they can learn. You know, there are other opportunities. So encourage them to keep learning. And of course, schedule regular check-in times where staff can safely discuss the impact of the work on their personal and professional lives. Because for a while, you know, I worked in downtown Dallas. We had a very large homeless population. And it was tough because we would do everything we could to help people, but there's only so much we could do at the library. And so just being aware of what that can do for your staff. And of course, with all of this, especially if you're not dealing with it, all of these things can lead to burnout. So some of the symptoms, you have a lack of balance between your work life and your personal life, just everything is together. You have a high workload, including overtime work. Like you just never have enough time to get everything done. You're trying to be everything to everyone. And I can't think of anyone in a library who has not at some point felt like they were trying to be everything to everyone, like, oh, yeah, that needs to be done. Oh, the library will do it. Like, we'll do this. And of course, sometimes you need extra staff. You need extra materials. You can't just keep taking on other things. And then another symptom or thing for it is if you work in a helping profession, such as healthcare or libraries, we're always trying to help people. And then you feel a little or no control over your work. So you're coming in and you don't know what's going to happen that day. And so some of you may also be aware of the term vocational awe. If you aren't, it's in our resource guide, which we'll provide you at the end. But Fobazi Etar uses the term vocational awe to refer to the set of ideas, values, and assumptions librarians have about themselves and the profession that result in beliefs that libraries as institutions are inherently good and sacred and therefore beyond critique. And this leads to people and organizations work outside of their scope. Because if you're busy trying to save your community, you don't feel that you can ask for time off or even take a full lunch break because there's just too much to do. So, you know, keep that in mind. And so kind of, we talked about all the things that can go wrong and everything bad that could happen, but what are some of the benefits of a healthy workplace? So creating a healthy workplace can improve the physical and mental health of workers. It can also increase job satisfaction, reduce turnover, increase performance, create a positive reputation for the library, and improve customer satisfaction. When workers feel better, they do better. They take fewer sick days, they're more productive, they have higher job satisfaction and morale, and they provide better customer service. Treating library workers better may also improve the reputation of the library. So in addition to improving the reputation as a good place to work, there's research that demonstrates that patrons are influenced by how workers are treated by management. Because, you know, if you feel supported by your managers, you're able to go out to that front desk and give your full support to the patrons. Okay, and I will now pass it over to Margie.
Okay, thanks, Jen. So now we're going to talk about what can be done at the organizational level. And we're going to address some of those things that Jen talked about. So one of the things is that when you're in the supervisory position, one more, there you go. Knowing how to promote wellness in the workplace and engage your employees in well-being, it's challenging. You know, it's challenging for libraries, and other companies face this as well. So this is kind of just a generalized workplace issue. But well-being in the workplace is a topic that everybody's become much more compassionate about, especially I think COVID really brought it to the forefront. And, you know, the question is, well, so why do we care so much about it? Well, as Jen mentioned, you know, when employees feel they have their well-being is higher or their morale is higher, they're more likely to be much more engaged at work. And then they feel supported by their organization, which is, it's really important. Next slide. Okay. All right, so the first thing is, you know, you want to support your staff. So taking intentional steps to show that you care about employees and as individuals, may be one of the most important things that you can do as a library leader or a supervisor or what have you. So the first thing is, start off by taking a really hard look at your office culture, so the library culture in general. Is it one where your employees feel really valued and cared for? Is it one where that they are comfortable, coming and asking for help? And understand that in addition to regular job duties, a lot of workers are dealing with so many other stresses and anxieties that are not only associated with the global health pandemic and the logistics that it's posed, but it's just the day-to-day life. It's just hard sometimes. So in addition to the ongoing fight, there's this ongoing fight against racial injustices and the polarizing political climate that we right now are kind of feeling. These also can create some feelings of isolation. Maybe there's some fear going on and anxiety. So, employers and supervisors should pause to acknowledge both the collective and individual struggles that people are facing now, and show their compassion and understanding of those unique needs. And one really simple way of showing compassion is just through communication efforts. So maybe consider sending positive notes of recognition or encouragement that just come directly from the supervisor or senior leaders or from the managers to the staff. This could be as simple as a sticky note, like, how you doing? Or, something like that. I mean, that little gesture can go a very, very long way. Stress and burnout can really manifest itself in a lot of different ways. So it kind of depends on the person. So one person may become more sensitive and visibly anxious, while others might show signs of irritability, or they're angry, or maybe they just have low energy. So an employee that's otherwise engaged or highly performing might seem kind of disconnected or distracted, or just basically uninterested. They might miss more work, or they might miss some deadlines, or maybe their work output just isn't what you're normally seeing. So there's just something going on. So frontline managers are really often the first people to spot this, that an employee is struggling. So if we can train our be trained to recognize some of these signs and symptoms, to approach employees with care and compassion, it would, I think that's really would be really helpful. Also, you need to provide those people in the front lines, those supervisors, with support, and equip them with the tools and resources that they need to, maybe help provide them, the ability to approach employees and have a conversation that can help employees as well. Right, so it's also important for the managers and people just to be to be aware of the resources that are available. So Jen mentioned employee assistance programs. So, remind the team and the employees, the staff, what's available, and, make sure they take a look at the scope of the things that are available. So for instance, where I work, and of course I work for a big institution at the University of Kansas, but you can do virtual counseling sessions through our health insurance program. But you also have to get creative too on how you can promote some of those resources. And mind you, I know that if you're a small library, and I've been in those, you're not going to have all these resources at your fingertips. So, but if you don't have the HR department, you might explore maybe the county public health department has some resources, or maybe you can go to the county extension agency to see if there's some things, or someone that can do a presentation, or just allow your employees to go to things like this, that they can learn about mental health and wellness, etc. So there are ways that little rural libraries can also get help too. All right, so we also want to remind our employees that their well-being is really a top priority, because I know in so many small places, you don't have a lot of people that are willing to work at the public library. You just don't. So you want to make sure that the people there know that you care about them. And so you want to encourage them to take time off for themselves and their families. ask employees how they're doing, about their workload, and maybe you can make adjustments and offer additional support as needed. For example, like Jen mentioned, make some accommodations and use flexible work arrangements. Whether it's taking that break to go pick up a kiddo or drop them off at camp in the summer, or any of those things, help them with their homework. Just make that, go that little extra effort, because one of those things, it's going to foster this culture of well-being, but it's also as a you're going to have a trained workforce that you value and you want to keep, because you don't want to start from scratch, because people get, that turnover, minimizing turnover is a really valuable thing. So it helps keep the library going when you have people that you don't have to train. And for those that are, physically together all the time, you want to provide a space, where they can take a little mental health break, be it a break room where there's maybe a, fresh water, or a refrigerator, coffee pot, or what have you. Let them, maybe a comfortable chair where they can unwind, recenter themselves, et cetera. And you also really need to encourage your people to take their time off and use their benefits, their PTO and what have you. And I used to work at a place where people wouldn't take their time off, so they had to take it by the end of the year. So the month of December, there was nobody working because they had all this time. And I was like, okay, the place is kind of shut down because we have to use all our vacation. But it always kind of was pretty comical to me. So anyway, at least they're getting that time off at Christmas. So and next, while providing opportunities for staff activity and having virtual or in-person fitness classes, that's really great. So you need to understand that employee well-being is a lot bigger than just physical health. So, we talked about feeling financially secure and having healthy, supportive relationships and feeling like you have a sense of purpose when you come to work. So feeling socially connected is needed probably a lot more now than it ever was before, as some of us continue to work remotely. So, try to schedule some of those virtual or in-person coffee meetups. That's always really fun, or do some team building activities just to help promote some connection between your staff. So these could be fun, or there might be a specific reason. Maybe you've got an employee that's been there for a while and you want to celebrate their achievement or milestone. So if you're looking for a theme or activity, professional or personal development can be a really great way to boost well-being at that as well. So topics like, bring in a financial planner for your staff, or, maybe talk about how to set some boundaries, or maybe building resilience. And remind employees of the library's vision and mission, and how each member of that team is really important in contributing to that success. Okay, so you might wonder how supporting community involvement contributes to creating a healthy workplace. So what this means is it refers to ways in which the workplace can go above and beyond to get itself involved in your community where you operate. So, and you're going to offer like the expertise and resources of your staff versus what you do day by day to support, social and the physical well-being of the community. So this could be any activity that really influences, the physical and mental well-being and safety of your staff and their families. So I'm talking about like volunteerism. So examples might be like you all get together and you adopt a family at Christmas, or and this can be strictly optional, but think about these things. Or maybe you go and work at the food bank for a day or something, or if you do a food drive, something simple for your, just to do some volunteerism as a group, and to provide that opportunity, and to also, allow people to do kind of pay it forward type of thing. So, research shows that volunteering really has quite a few health benefits. So for instance, it improves your physical and mental health. It provides a sense of purpose, and it teaches valuable skills. Like, let's say, I've worked with some really phenomenal staff that can knit like no other, to have a knitting class is just, amazing. Go out to school and maybe just teach kids just the basics of that, or what have you. It also reduces stress, and it can lower your blood pressure to get out there and do some volunteering. And we've talked about telecommuting, and I'm not going to go into it too much in depth, but it did teach us that librarians are really capable when it comes to working at home. So, staff should be allowed to telecommute if it doesn't interfere with the day-to-day work. So you obviously can't be a telecommuter when you're supposed to work the circulation desk. So you should probably take a look at that. If you're a smaller library, this may not be something that concerns you, but you can have the conversation with your staff. Would they be interested in this, and how they see it fitting in with the work that they do? And you might need to rearrange sometimes, and maybe it's not possible that somebody can have an all day at home, but maybe just work at home for half a day before they have to go in and staff the library. So, just considering just changing some practices that help to have an honest and, open communication plan. That's another thing that's really important. In my office, we all use Teams, because I'm based in Kansas and Jen is down in Fort Worth. And so we are on Teams all the time. We can communicate that way. There's other ways. There's, Skype. There's some other ways out there to do that as well. But the thing is I feel like I know them, and I've only met them once face to face. And it's really nice. And then at KU, where I'm based in Kansas City, the instructional librarians I work with, they work 2 days remotely, and then they're 3 days on campus. So, that too is an opportunity that, I can always just chat with one of them when I need to. And one of the nice things about what KU did is we have a very clear policy that outlines the expectations for the staff and the library when it comes to telecommuting and working at home. So if you are considering doing this, make sure that you do have a good policy and guidelines in place for your staff so they know what the expectations are. All right, well, we've talked about all those things that are more soft types of things, but there are some real tangible things that the library building, the library management can do to that could, without a lot of effort. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these libraries are older buildings with older cooling and heating systems, and setting a temperature for everyone can be really difficult. So I'm sure, we've got stories about people fighting over the temperature control, if not at work, certainly at home. But one thing you could do is just get a portable thermometer. They're about $10, and then you're going to get a real accurate reading of what the temperature is in the workspace. So sometimes knowing exactly what the temperature is can really help resolve disputes. Some offices, have been hesitant to allow personal heaters or fans because of the fire hazard, but there's a lot of new products out there that have built-in safety features, such as automatically shutting off when they're tipped over. Make sure that there's a policy or guidelines about these things, and consider making some changes to update your policy if it's going to make your staff more comfortable. And one other thing is make sure that the vents are clean and the filters are changed regularly in the building. Next slide. Okay, indoor plants. All right, so I want to encourage you to get some indoor plants in your workspace. They're really a nice way just to brighten up the place. And it's a really simple way to let staff personalize their space. But again, be mindful that it's not all plants. You want to make sure that they're not of a toxic variety. So it might be wise to just provide a list of safe plants to have. And then create a culture where it just isn't acceptable to eat lunch and take breaks from a desk, but it's really expected. And we're all guilty of this. I'm guilty of it. But, in a work environment like some of us work in, it's just better to get rid of that practice, because it can cut down on smells that can be offensive to other staff. So to kind of think of everybody else too. And you want to lead by example and encouragement. The other thing is, if possible, it's always nice to create an inviting outdoor area that staff can go, and they're expected to use it. This could be a picnic table with maybe an umbrella, or maybe just a bench so people could go outside and what have you. So if they go take a walk around the building, there's a place to just sit and enjoy a nice day. Yesterday, we had a beautiful day here in Kansas City. So it's gorgeous outside. In fact, sometimes I think, I should go work out on my screened-in porch. So, And then you want to provide a private space, like I mentioned earlier, for meetings and private phone calls. And that's also going to help cut down on that noise factor that I talked about. And then one other thing is to designate quiet times. If you have areas where staff are all working together, just say, oh, like from 1 to 3, it's going to be quiet. You know, that's a simple way to do it. Easy way. Okay, and then encourage workers to make the adjustments that they need to you know, mitigate the effects and aspects that you simply can't change. So for instance, if the lighting isn't great and you can't afford to go in and put new lighting in, just allow a desk lamp that makes it better. Or, you know, allow workers to wear headphones and put on some white noise if it's going to help cut down on background noise. You know, just those little things are pretty simple to do. And I think give your staff some autonomy. And now I'm going to pass this back over to Jen, and she's going to talk a little bit about some things before we wind things up here.
Yes. So, and of course, I think we all know that library staff are great at responding to community needs, but we often have a hard time advocating for ourselves. And so I was pleased to see that one of the past presidents of ALA has created a citation for wellness in the workplace from the ALA Sustainability Roundtable. And so they're recognizing libraries that go above and beyond in meeting the wellness needs of their staff. And so they have the Sustainability Roundtable citation for wellness in the workplace. So all ALA members are invited to nominate any library whose efforts to meet the needs of their staff in the areas of continuing education and creating a positive work environment have advanced sustainability and encouraged wellness. And so this may include wellness initiatives for unions, gender equity, pay equity, and other activities designed to improve the salaries and status of library workers. So also, I think sometimes you have a hard time convincing your library to do something for staff. But now you could say, like, hey, if we do this, perhaps we will be noticed by LA. And so maybe you can get buy-in from your administration that way. And then one thing Margie had mentioned, that one of the things that we do at NLM is we provide funding to organizations for health and wellness. So one of the things we just kind of want you to think about is just imagine if your organization had $10,000 to create a healthier workplace. What is something that you could do? And so there's, you've got yoga, fitness, mindfulness. Let's Move in Libraries is a great organization, a great resource for all sorts of activities for staff and for patrons. Of course, we're a library, so health literacy. And then training and development for staff are all things that could potentially be funded from us. So keep that in mind. And then, so we talked about what the organization can do. Some of you may not be in a leadership position and like, but what can I do today to make things better? So in this section, we're gonna briefly talk about some things that you can do to improve your health and wellness at work. And we don't have a lot of time, and I know we're running short, so we're going to be limited in what we can cover, but we have a lot of resources and suggestions we have a resource guide as well. So explore the resources that are listed in the handout, which I'll put a link in shortly. And so many of these suggestions are a starting place, and we encourage you to discover ways that work for you to improve your health and wellness, both at home and at work. And so one thing that you can do is explore mindfulness. And so if you aren't already practicing mindfulness, you've probably heard the term. So what is mindfulness? In NIH News, they described mindfulness as an ancient practice about being completely aware of what's happening in the present, of all that's going on inside and all that's happening around you. So it means not living your life on autopilot. Instead, you experience life as it unfolds moment to moment, good and bad, and without judgment or preconceived notions. And so some tips to get started, you take some deep breaths, you breathe in through your nose to a count of 4, hold for 1 second, and then exhale through the mouth to a count of 5. And you pay attention to how your breath feels in your body. Enjoy a stroll. As you walk, notice your breath and the sights and sounds around you. As thoughts and worries enter your mind, note them, but then return to the present. Don't dwell on what you did earlier in the day that you can't change. Just move on. Practice mindful eating. So be aware of the taste, textures, and flavors in each bite, and listen to your body when you're hungry and when you're full. And then you may also find some mindfulness resources in your local community, including yoga and meditation classes, mindfulness-based stress reduction programs, and books. And you may think like, okay, I'm going to struggle with some of these. And I know I'm not great at a lot of these, but part of mindfulness is recognizing when we're struggling and then taking that as an opportunity to recenter our thinking and reconnect to our body. So maybe, yeah, so taking that lunch away from your desk, maybe going out into nature. So you're trying to, I don't want to say multitask because we're trying to relax, but it's a good way to try to do a few things at once to kind of calm down, recenter yourself, and then go back to work. So take the deep breaths, stroll, and of course, your community. So, and of course, oh yes, the apps, Insight Timer. Yes, there are so many apps. The technology is great. There's so many different apps to help us do things. So even if you're not great at it, there's probably an app that will teach you what to do. And so in addition to taking charge of your health and wellness, there's some specific things that you can do. So first, respect your time. Take your lunch breaks, take your vacation days. They are provided for you for a reason. Know your limitations. Don't be a perfectionist. You know, if you have 40 hours in a week or 20 hours in a week, do what you can. If you can't get it done, that's a discussion you need to have with your administration or your city government because you can only do so much. Don't take work home with you. Set realistic limits and keep to them. I know I've worked with people that stay up all night, especially like those children's librarians. Their summer reading. There's so many things that need to get done. Do what you can, but go home. Don't take the work home with you. You know, do what you can, leave it there, try to take a break and come back fresh. And then make time for things that you enjoy, like taking a new class, exercise, developing a new hobby. Maybe you like to binge watch, murder mysteries, whatever it takes for you to relax. And if you are in administration or your manager, if your organization offers tuition reimbursement for classes, again, make sure the employees know about that. Just like with EAP, if people don't know about it, they can't take advantage of it. Also, be aware of preparing to live syndrome, which is always waiting for a future point at which all things will come together. So we're like, oh, once we get through summer reading, it'll all get better. But then it's, back, and you're like, okay, well, once the holidays come, it'll slow down. And just deal with things in the moment. It's probably not going to get calmer. Just get used to it. And so to do that, you wanted a network of supportive family and friends. So it's great if you can have those at work as well, because they obviously know what you're going through, but have people outside of your job too. And then you can also, possibly like ask for new job duties. Maybe there's something you really like to do that someone else doesn't want to do that you would love to do. Like I love weeding and I love inventory. Just let me scan things all day and know where everything is. I love it. Other people look at me and they're like, who likes to do that? I'm like, I do. I like to know what's in the catalog and make sure it's accurate. So, talk to your staff, talk to your manager, find out what you like to do and see if there's a way to get more of those activities in your job. And then maybe just, changing the group that you work with. So maybe you stay in the same job, but you're with a different group of people. And then of course, maybe even a job change. So maybe you're in the right profession, but you're in the wrong organization. Or maybe you've realized, maybe I just need a career change overall. It's never too late. We all love to learn. It's never too late to find out what works best for you. And so remember, you have that work-life balance. You have, even if you are working from home, like once you hit 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever time you end, just be done with it for the day. There's plenty to do the next day. It will wait. And then one thing that we like to do, so we want you to kind of think about it, is to possibly create a boundary statement. And so what this does, there's a few examples here. And so this sort of a boundary statement is to let people know that you aren't attached to your phone or your email at all hours of the day. I know for me, like sometimes I was so busy working in the library running around that I didn't get to my computer for several hours because there was a story time and there was this and then this fire popped up. And so just let people know, not to expect an immediate answer. And so it's meant to be respectful and give you some space and then hopefully some work-life balance. And so everyone's organization or work responsibilities are a little different. But we've got some examples here. And so maybe you do work nights and weekends. So it is completely normal for you to send an email on 7 p.m. on Friday. But maybe you work part-time and you're not responding to emails daily. So take a few minutes or take a few seconds to kind of look at these examples and think of what might work for your organization or for you personally. And think about how these relate to your job responsibilities and your priorities. So come up with your boundary statement that reflects what a work-life balance would look like for you. And a lot of times people will put these actually on their signature of their email. And so you'll see like, oh, I know like I do when I'm out of the office attending conferences, like I'll put that in there, like I'm gone for 3 days. So you can email me, but you're not going to get a response till I get back because I don't have time to check email. And so you can put it as your email signature if you would like, but sometimes maybe you just want to keep it for yourself, kind of as a reminder of like, oh, when I come in for the day, I've got these other job activities that I need to do, and then I will get into email. Because if you open up your email first thing, there's always things that are going to get like, oh, there's 2 hours and I haven't gotten to what I needed. So maybe you can talk with your manager about what you need to do first and give yourself some boundaries. And then another thing that you can do to maintain your health, both at work and at home, is to critically evaluate health and wellness claims that you encounter. So use health information resources that are reliable and evidence-based. And of course, over the last 2 years, we know how important this is to get reliable health information. So being from the NNLM, first we're going to talk about Medline Plus. This is a free, reliable, evidence-based consumer health resource for both you and your patrons. It's produced by the National Library of Medicine, which is the world's largest medical library. It brings you information about diseases, conditions, and wellness issues in language that you can understand. It offers reliable, up-to-date health information anywhere, anytime. So whether you're on a phone or a tablet, because there's no smartphone app, because I know we've had to work with patrons, and they need their password to get into Google Play or the iTunes store. So there's no app. Medline Plus takes advantage of responsive design, and it's a technique that responds to the screen of the user's device. And so you can access Medline Plus from the browser of any device that you have. And the site is based with the highest quality criteria to the extent that some otherwise excellent resources don't make the cut. Pages or sites with advertising or promotion of products are infrequently allowed on Medline Plus. So for instance, Medline Plus links to the Mayo Clinic, but it always links to the print version because advertising is stripped out of the version that is formatted for print. It does not include sites that ask for personal information or require registration in order to use the site. And honestly, you could spend hours just going through all of the resources on Medline Plus. And in fact, we offer a 1-hour course on Medline Plus to tell you about all the resources available on it. But another one is the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. Because a lot of times you'll have people coming in, they want natural resources. They want alternative resources. So this will show you how to make wise health decisions, provides information to allow consumers to make informed decisions about complementary and integrative health. You've got an herbs at a glance section, and then also how to find a practitioner. So tips to find someone who works for complementary and integrative health. And then there are, of course, even more additional resources. And like I said, all of these will be linked in the resource guide that I'll put in the tab. Oh, Margie has just put Medline Plus in the link. So quite a few additional resources as well. And then of course, we would like for you to stay connected with us to learn about the different programs and membership opportunities that we have. If you sign up for our mailing list, you'll have the opportunity to learn about training, the funding and resources available. And so I will put the link in the chat. And then, yeah, we say a minute, it takes about 10 seconds because it's just your name and your email. You don't have to put your name, just give us an email address. And then also we have an outreach advisory board, and we cover 7 states. We are looking for more representation from Nebraska. So if that's something you're interested in, you can contact us and let us know. And then we kind of want you to think, so we've thrown a lot of things at you in this, 90 minutes or so. Well, we want you to think of like one thing that you can do. So when you get off the Zoom call and you're back on the desk, or you're on the service, the reference desk, what is one thing that you'll be able to do either today or tomorrow to make your life better? Because as we mentioned, a lot of these will take time. Oh, remodeling. Okay, install higher walls on the cubicles for staff who don't have offices. Yes, because you're trying to make phone calls and you're on the computer. Like, I'm used to talking to people all the time, but I don't want people to like listen to my conversations. It puts stress on me for other people to hear me. Okay, leave the building when I take my lunch break, take a walk. Yes, like right now, like actually in Texas, we have a nice day today. It is not 95 degrees. So before the rains come, I probably will go outside and take a bit of a walk. And I think we kind of came right up on that 90 minutes. But are there any questions for us? And I will put our contact information in here as well. Ooh, chair yoga staff meeting. Okay. I know I would need some training on that. And let me put the links to both our resource guide and our slides in the chat. Okay, so that first one, that is our handouts with all of our resources. Oh, YMCA instructor. Okay, yeah, someone who actually knows what they're doing. That is good. And then we have our slides here. Oh, morning and evening meditation. Short 5 or 10 minutes over lunch if I feel my day is wackadoodle. Yes, who has not had one of those days? Especially on a Monday, you're like, how is it not Thursday already? Excellent. Thank you. I don't see any questions, so I will.
Thank you so much. You've given us so many things to think about. Oh my gosh. And the Medline Plus, we had that training in our system, but it's been years ago. I'm trying to remember how long ago it was, but it sounds like it's something we should do again. So
we do have an on demand so that students, you can go in and take it for free whenever you have a moment to do.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, or we could do a repeat performance and come back and do it.
And that'd be great. I mean, we love having these resources. Again, you are so right. People do not know what is available out there. Yeah. One of our libraries got a grant, and it was a let's move kind of type thing. It was from the National Institutes of Medicine, but it was a great grant for a small library, and they were able to get water bottles, and they were teaching about nutrition, and they were for kids. It was amazing. So that and nobody, if people don't know about those resources, then it doesn't do any good. But so we are so excited to hear about all those things.
Yeah, I dropped a link to our website, so you can see us. You can find us on nnlm.gov, but we also have a website through Lewis Library, where Jen is based out of, that kind of has some things. It has our funding. We've already gotten the funding done for this second year, but it always comes around. Plus there's professional development money that anyone's available to apply for if they have something that they want to go to an online class, or we're always looking to give out those funds to help people. So and I recently have gotten connected with your Nebraska Library Association, and they're going to push out some of our emails and notifications of events. So we have every month we have a thing called Health Bites. So we offer a speaker, and it has MLA CE credit, but that would probably your librarians could use that as well, because they're all free, and we have a variety of topics. So yeah.
Well, that sounds terrific.
Yeah. Anyway.
So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for giving us the time. Thank you.
Yeah, and spread the word to all your Nebraska librarian friends. We want to have more of an impact in Nebraska. So anyway, it was a pleasure to be with all of you today. Really, thank you. And go out there and take a walk.
All righty.
All right. Thanks so
Thank-
much.
Thanks, folks.
So